if y'all remember Zach, he's uniquely positioned to understand this stuff, right? You ran safety and permits, you went on your own, and you all have seen. And Ron, remind us your background.
My background is, can you hear it?
Yeah, it's mostly for online.
Got it. For all my online lovers there.
Yeah. There are a bunch of people online. It's private, but yeah.
So I was a pastor in the Lutheran Church for 15 years, Missouri Synod, ultra-conservative church body. I decided to leave, which was very hard, and then I ended up in politics, which I was actually on Ray Nagin's. I was working with just him and his family when we were trying to change, we wanted someone in business in the city. Well, that didn't go as well as we had hoped, but...
The beginning of his administration, after Katrina, when he went off the rail.
So I really think having someone in business. I also ran Algiers Economic Development Foundation, West Bank Redevelopment Foundation. I am a West Banker and very proud to be on there. She is as well. I live in Algiers Point, the historic area. And then I was with another consulting firm for 5 years before I switched over to Zach about 2.5 years ago. And the reason I switched was not because there was anything wrong with the other consulting firm. This was just bigger. It had architects on staff. We have 4 architects, full-time architects on staff, which makes a huge difference when you're creating plans, you're doing permitting and licensing and going through the system, because our architects, we need a change in 30 seconds. We can have it in 30 seconds. Use an outside architecture firm. We have to wait for their schedule to get it in. So it really has been able to expedite projects. I never want to say that we get any special treatment at City Hall, because we don't, but we have the relationships of our relationships are extremely important to us, and that's how we handle ourselves in public, in conversations, because all we have is our reputation. I've always said that. After working in City Hall, I worked for District C for 3 years as well with Kristen Palmer. I would say that one thing of helping run campaigns, being in City Hall and all of that, I don't have political enemies. Well, why is that? Because I treat everyone the same and treat everyone with utmost respect. And I think if that's something that we could do in life in general, it would get rid of a lot of the crap that goes on. Hey, if my bosses didn't like each other and we're fighting, doesn't mean the staff had to. So anyway, my position has always been to help people, care for people, and treat them right, and to try to make their dreams come true, or unfortunately, sometimes I'm a dream killer. It's just part of the process of being in this business.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious, I think getting City Hall functional and a new administration is really important and a great thing. And I think there are a lot of great people that work there. They're just stuck in really old, parochial, broken systems, and there's a middle management level that really is not resourced properly or even have the capabilities to get there if they wanted to. Is that a fair assessment? I mean, being in both sides of it from both of your standpoints?
I'm going to jump first and then let Zach jump in on this. I am a big supporter of everyone that works at City Hall. And when you're talking about the middle person, the people that are doing the work, they're all good people.
Even the clerks that receive your permit, I disagree sometimes with their interpretation of the rules, because I think I read English one way and they read another. But I don't think they're bad people.
Yeah.
Or corrupt, or I needed to put a $20 bill with them.
I do think, though, there are times in City Hall where people are stuck on stupid. And that's not because they're stupid. It's like they can only see things black and white. In our business, everything is gray. How we do things, how we communicate, and how we interpret things. And we're always trying to make business grow and help people with their homes get whatever they need. I think where it gets frustrating at City Hall is sometimes the long-term people have been there and they see things a certain way. And look, I've been in the private community, private business world. I've been in the nonprofit world through Algiers Economic, through being a pastor. Mm-hmm. I've been in government. So I think we have a better view of how things really work than people in City Hall.
Yeah. Great.
So your point, Jeff, is I think is well made. It's something that's pretty easy to see. The issue with the city generally is the system. You have a lot of very well-intentioned people that go to work every day that are generally underpaid, that if most people in the private sector ever tried to go to City Hall, they disappear immediately because it's too intense. It's too much pressure to do so much with so little.
And take an elevator that barely works every day.
Elevator that barely works, building that...
I think that's actually like a mental screw. The second you go in there, if that's your place of work, the fact that you're just hoping your elevator gets to the floor every single day is a really screwy thing.
So, I mean, let's look at it from facts. Since Katrina, you've had... Ron mentioned Nagin. Nagin wanted to abandon City Hall and go somewhere else. Mitch wanted to abandon City Hall and go somewhere else. LaToya wanted to abandon City Hall and go somewhere else. So we had 3 terms of mayors who basically said, let's not put any investment in the building where everybody goes to work because we have a pie in the sky to go somewhere else. Yeah. And good intentions obviously paved the way to
and the
hell.
Money to do it.
And yeah, at the time, strike while the iron's hot. The move to the Chevron building that Ray, proposed probably was the best idea at the time. Today, it's pretty difficult to make that move, especially because government is fleshed back out in so many ways. But yeah, it sucks when people walk into the building. I think I was in my first year in city government, and it was like, I called it the City Hall effect. People are angry the night before they go to the building, both employees and people that have to go do business there, because of the rot of that building. It's not a fun place to be. In many ways, if it wasn't government, if it wasn't a government-owned building, it would have been declared, blighted by government. The building is, I know James has been in there, has issues.
He knows somebody that
has
goes
issues
there
with improper HVAC. Has issues with mold, has issues with asbestos, has issues with lead, has issues with all these things that any other place wouldn't be able to get away with. But government has intentionally said we're intentionally not going to spend money on this because we want to put it into something else. Yeah. And again, had we gotten a new building, had City Hall been moved, fine, water under the bridge. But here we are 20-something years later, and nobody's better for it. I would like to see an administration commit to a real plan to fix the building in place and move on. Or go buy a building and move everybody out and rip the Band-Aid off and do it. But the idea of not putting investment into the building that they're in, it creates a bad working environment.
It's tough for the workers.
And it sets a bad tone where everything doesn't want to do it. So your point, I think, is well made that the building itself is a distraction from winning.
Council offices and executive offices aren't so bad, though. It's funny when you go to a meeting.
So I'll take a privilege of being an invitation holder. The former CAO, who works down the street right now, redid his office, I think,
with
3 times.
With the animals, you mean?
Yes, with the animals.
Yeah, at the zoo.
Redid, who just doubled their stuff. Surprise, surprise. I'll take the personal privilege to make that statement, and you can put that on social media.
You want to give us you want to say it really nicely so we can
cut you out of that picture,
please?
We have to be adults here. The man no longer can hide the money, and they immediately figure out how bad the situation is. Yeah. That it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. It's criminal to the fact.
He can resign.
It's criminal to the fact that we have City Hall employees who barely make $15 an hour, who are potentially on the chopping block for getting a furlough of up to 10% of their salary. $3,000 out of $30,000 doesn't sound a lot to some of us. $3,000 out of $30,000 is everything to people that are making $30,000, and that's because the guy can't do basic math.
It's not a vacation day.
And
it's a day you
around.
Don't get paid.
It's a day you don't get paid. Yeah, when I was 23 and I started under a furlough with Ray, I was still drinking, and I'd go to the track, and I'd have a great time on Friday afternoons in the spring.
You.
Yeah, that was 23. But life goes on, and I didn't have the family. I didn't have kids. So it was simpler then. But, I appreciate where you're going with this. Yeah, there are the haves and have-nots in government. And the folks at the bottom need the most, and they should be getting the most. And, the 9th floor has been renovated 3 times in the last 7.5 years.
Our priorities,
That's a fact,
our
by the way.
priorities are interesting. But let's talk about now fixing it, because I think the reason I think what we want to hear from you all to make this a successful visit, not just bitching, is really, do we see a path of hope here to fix? Give us the couple, if you could wave a magic wand, what would that look like that's reasonable and doable? And then really, like, when do we need to be bringing in an expert like you all to a client meeting? Like, what are the things we need to be listening for that when we are adding value by saying, look, you can try that road, or you're really adding to your life. So let's start. Let's save that for later, and then we'll leave some questions. Is that a good agenda, everybody? Mm-hmm. So what is the hope? What's the ray of light out there? What are you hearing when you talk to the transition committee members?
So the ray of hope, and this is the phrase I'm about to say is not mine. I can't tell you where I got it from. Some of you may have heard it directly from the source. But look, the new mayor is sober, and she'll show up. Okay? I think that's a huge, huge improvement. So I think we're going in the right direction. Again, facts. These are facts.
To be clear, you're saying that
the ray of hope
deficit with the person before.
An absolute.
There's a lot more to Helena Moreno than being sober and
it's an understatement. It's an understatement.
Daylight hours.
But that helps set the tone that there are certain things, to the point that Ron made earlier, there are great individuals and great minds trying to do great work, and the lack of which direction should the ship be going in for 7.5 years is a reason why the ship has turned completely around from progress that it was making. Mitch was not perfect. Ray was not perfect. They all, I think, left the place in some ways better than they found it. We're not seeing that today.
I think one of the big mistakes of this current administration was as safety and permits was collapsing after COVID, that's our economic engine, is safety and permits. We really need them to work well. Not only were they allowed to just kind of fall apart, there was no intervention from this administration to correct what's happening in safety and permits. And so what you've basically had, and this is my personal opinion, is safety and permits has pretty much done what they've wanted to do and interpreted things they want to interpret things, because there was no one above them saying, no, that's not right, you can't do this or that. That is like when Mitch Landrieu put in the hiring freeze for NOPD. We never got out of that. We're still struggling. We're still 300-400 officers short. What happened with safety and permits, it kind of falling apart, is it was just a mess, in which is why people need us so much. I think Zach and I are in the same mind frame. Yes, we love money. We like to make money. We like what we do. I think if what we really want is City Hall to work right and work well, because that will benefit our community.
Appreciate that.
This is why I bring Ron along. I'm the angry one. Yeah. He's the optimistic one.
So wave the magic wand. What can we reasonably fix?
What can we reasonably fix? I mean, it can be done tomorrow with the new administration, with the new council. The council has to spend more time with the budget and less time with land use. Okay? This current land use.
Right.
IZDs, interim zoning districts, zoning changes, overlays,
so let's
making stuff up as we go
Talk
through
to us about a typical council meeting, because we've had field trips to council meetings. Those have been, it probably is. We need the right, I mean, let's go for a good issue though too. But they spend about the first half of the council meeting doing the business of the city, and then they spend it going through individual land use items. And people coming up and speaking on behalf.
Y'all haven't been in a minute. They've flipped some stuff around, but
okay.
But land use takes an inordinate amount of time. Yeah. That typically is where the majority
Which
of...
is saying Jeffrey Newsom deserves a permit to add on to his building at 8601 Leak Avenue that would be 5 feet above the 60-foot minimum there, or whatever.
Yeah. And we got to start with the dollars and cents, especially because we're in a spot where every dollar counts, every penny counts. And we're saying we're anywhere from $150 to $220 million of a deficit. So one of the newsletters we had a couple weeks ago was about the conditional use. The conditional use is a very contentious process.
Terrible.
Okay, it takes 9 to 13 months of anybody's life. It also takes 9 to 13 months of everybody that touches it in government, which includes dozens of people, from the city council members themselves to their staff. It's a distraction from them.
Because the client always wants to go straight to the council member. So they make an appointment. They want to make an appointment. They want to go see him. They would think that if I just sit down and have a reasonable head-to-head conversation with someone who I think is a reasonable person, who would stay at my kid's school or whatever, I should be able to do something that's very reasonable, because most people aren't trying to, tear something down that's a historic gem or do something.
The majority
terrible,
of people
right?
are trying to do normal things
Right.
that generally everyone you would feel should be supportive of. But due to a system of generally neighbors who have very good-hearted intentions on protecting and preserving their slice of a neighborhood, generally look at anything that's changed as some sort of an abomination. And again, the people that first put roots down in New Orleans said, well, we're going to turn it from a swamp into something else. And then the Europeans came after that and started building up even more. It's a situation of we have to go back to this place being a living, walking museum is showing declining population, declining revenue, declining jobs, declining everything. Museums are fun and all, but they can't be the only thing we have going on in town. We have to be a dynamic city. We have to be open to change. And fundamentally, I know you're jumping in, but we have to look at the dollars and cents, and specifically conditional use is a start there because it's one of the threads to pull. And if you do the calculus on how much money the city loses in direct dollars of employee lost time and value where they could be doing other things, it is absurd. Yeah. It is absurd. It's to the hundreds of thousands of dollars of employee time across city government lost juggling whether or not is your project going to get approved or not.
So
I would,
quick before you, when a client is looking at buying a piece of property and we look on the website and it says C, I tell them you can just basically call that like not permitted or impossible because the process you're going to go through, you're going to buy the piece of property, you're going to start paying interest, and over a year, you've got to be able to make those payments for over a year.
Yeah.
you're right.
In most cases, sometimes 2, and then have a huge chance of being denied.
And we ask ourselves at the end of it, why do these businesses fail?
Right.
We know it's right in front of us.
So I'm not wrong in saying that to a client, and that's probably the right.
I would say send them to us because what I do
Give
is
a barber.
I am extremely honest with people. You are not going to get an ounce of BS out of me.
Right.
And so I look at what the project is, the neighborhood. I'll start off by reaching out to the council staff and saying, hey, this one might be a little dicey. What do you think? And I've got one coming up that's a little dicey that'll come in January. It's not a slam dunk. But the clients also know that. And part of what you're saying, too, is I wouldn't shut people's dreams down and say, oh, it's conditional use, no chance. They have to have the pockets to survive 1 year. And sometimes what we'll do out of the goodness of our heart is we'll do an initial fee to try to get through the NPP part out of that conditional use.
The neighborhood participation meeting.
The neighborhood participation meeting. That way, if we just run into a brick wall there, the client knows this is going to be a really tough sell. They can kind of back out at that point. And that's our way of being honest. In response to, how will the new administration, I have a lot of confidence that this administration the upcoming administration is going to really work hard at making City Hall work in all departments. And the reason I'm confident that safety and permits will have a good review and huge oversight is because you've got a council member going to be mayor. I am in constant contact with every single council office, and when things get stuck, sometimes the council office has to call. The council office doesn't want to do that crap. And so I think they know, well, I don't think, they know how broken it is, and they want to fix it. And again, I'm not pointing out certain people in the government. It needs oversight, and it needs, when you walk in, you shouldn't be treated as you're a criminal. You should be treated as someone that's helping the city. Now, if they turn out to be a-holes, well, then fine. You have a right to talk back. But when you walk in, especially with the short-term rental, which I do, and you walk in and they're immediately like, oh, what are you doing? Or I've heard say, oh, they're all illegal, even the ones that have licenses. Well, if you're going to go in a mindset and have communications with your residents and your business owners like that, what does that do? How many clients have we had who have left New Orleans? One has sold all their portfolio and moved over to Jefferson Parish, where he's been received and with open arms.
And look, we've heard a lot of people. I mean, just think the initial Airbnb, and let's come back. Never mind. let's come back to STR,
We
because
have
I
to
do
talk
think
about
we got to talk about that. But waving the magic wand, not treating people like criminals. Your first item was
Decide what we want to permit and what
Less-
we don't want to permit. and-
less land use
and
negotiation and
let
more
people,
just clear area.
let people follow the path.
Could we just tell every neighborhood association you've got to pick one area that's you're going to allow to become a economic that we're going to release some. Take one area of your neighborhood and y'all can pick it, but if you don't by this date, we're going to pick it, and you need to allow the gloves to come off for some regulation to be
So the
lifted.
answer is obviously yes, we could. It requires compromise, and we have not been in a spirit of compromise with legislation, in my opinion, recently. And it's something that I think can happen immediately. It's something that we're very excited about. Mr. Matt Willard, who's got a proven track record in the legislature as a Democrat in the state legislature. He's been working as a minority, without the votes to pass anything, and has been very successful, which is saying, hey, how do we find a way to get to that middle ground? We're very excited for that kind of energy coming into the council. Incoming at large.
Yeah.
But it has to start with a compromise. It has to start with that we cannot continue to do it the same way we've been doing it. Because I fundamentally believe, I don't know this, I'm not the data expert, I'm not the data scientist, I'm certainly not a history professor, but I believe that had we done some of these quote-unquote big moves 20 years ago, the city would look very different today than it does. But we've been going on the same old, let's listen to the same 10 people tell you why a project's different or why, and we don't have anything to show for it. All we have is the same. Actually, I take that back. It's not the same. We have a population loss, a continued population.
It's the only. Yeah.
So it's getting politics out of land use. I think is the thing that I like.
Is there any chance that happening?
I think that there is always a chance. I think it's low. Okay. The reality is it's low because it hasn't happened. There is a huge appetite to continue on the same way it is. I think that it's one of those situations where if you got any person individually, they'd say absolutely we need to get out of it, but nobody wants to be the one to throw the rock through the window first. And again, there's some new energy, some new direction. And nothing like a $200 million budget crisis to give you the cover to go and break the window.
It's all over. We put it on the lowest people in the ladder have to suffer, and we got a loan. We can pay it off with like a credit card.
Like a credit card.
So let's talk about STRs for a minute.
Okay.
I thought it was really weird when all of a sudden these permits that were ungettable, everybody kind of got in the middle of summer. Like it seemed like there was just this surge, and people were able to finally cut a deal, or their lawyer was able to get through, or somehow they got a commercial permit that reinstated that was pulled 2 years ago, or just things happened, and then the spigot gets turned off.
So a couple.
That's what it felt like from a little detached view.
So a couple things. One is not really, but there were properties that were in development for the last 2 or 3 years. As long as they had put clearly on their construction plans, this was for a commercial short-term rental, and as long as they had a commercial short-term rental license or application submitted before the IZDs, once their project was done, they can get them.
But Ron, the council was giving. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking about
the
residential.
Council, no, I'm talking
about
both.
The appeals.
I mean, appeals all of a sudden got they rocketed through some, and some things all of a sudden got their permits again. Then also at the same time, I feel like all the hardship stuff, like no one knew that they were going to give us a window of hardship, and then so many people were going to get a hardship permit it felt like pretty easily. And then when everyone started realizing they could go do that, they just said,
"No, that's not 100." So what happened is you could not really. No one was appealing the commercial ICD because they made it very clear they weren't going to appeal any. As this went on for 2 years,
which is the MU and the BA1, right?
As this went on, then what happened was. People were kind of critical. They needed to do appeals. And everything, they were approving here and there. And then Canal Street hit. 1801, was it Canal? Which is the one that they
15.
What is it?
15?
What? 1501?
Yeah.
When they suddenly gave them their commercial short-term rental license, and the next day they gave everyone eviction notice. That immediately killed it, and they would not approve any commercial short-term rental appeals after that. So I had 2 or 3 really good ones, very clear. Single mother who had all these crises going on and don't want to get into her business publicly, but I said it all in front of council. And I got an enormous amount of emails, phone calls, and text messages like, what the H was this? They all just hit no because they decided they weren't going to approve any commercial short-term rentals. We have Tuesday at City Planning Commission, the transient lodging study is finally going to be heard at City Council. I've been doing short-term rentals since 2018. I will say that this report that came out, without being a negative, being a positive, it was awful.
Yeah, and let's back up a second. I'm glad you said. I'm glad you came out with that first because the transient lodging study. Just to remind everybody, they made the rules, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they made the rules on residential STRs, RSTRs,
correct,
right? And then they said we're going to do a study for commercial, and they just kept tabling that for like months, and then they hired this Desire Line group, who's local, to do a study.
Well, to interject, just to make a former point. We had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to a private consulting firm because our city planners were too wrapped up doing zoning variances for 2 extra feet or for conditional use. Yeah. And so we couldn't do it in-house.
Fair.
Again, I'm bringing it back.
They'd love to, look, I get really aggravated that the council can't walk to a site and just say, oh, I see it, they need to hire a consultant to tell them.
But I bring the point up, Jeff, to say, though, it all starts with the very small things.
I get it.
And if we can change a couple of small things, we can actually have our in-house people do things for way less cost, on time. The fundamental problem with the transient lodging study is 2 years behind schedule.
2 years.
2 years behind schedule. And what happens in government is people say, well, I have to wait for this to happen for me to do something else. Meanwhile, everybody in this room is losing.
It's been a hot potato that they have not wanted. I truly believe, and I have no intel on this, that they were hoping they could kick that thing even farther down the road, and they eventually had things like 1201 happen and all these things that they just finally
1201
that they just had to suck it up and go for it. That's my outsider view.
I think one last point. I think that part of this is I think there's a shred there that I can agree with. My point of why I can't fully agree with it is because we're all speculating. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there's not a smoking gun here. But one of the reasons why everybody wants to kick it is because every time we redo the rules, it's a very one-sided process that generally is very punitive to the group that's being regulated. And as everybody in this room understands, you find a way to make it work. And then people come back and say, oh, well, they found these loopholes. No. If it's not against the law, it's lawful. It's legal.
So, John,
what I would hope that really comes out of this next round of short-term rental discussion is lock in the folks that are pro and lock in the folks that are anti in a room and saying we're giving you 2 days and you're going to come up with something that is somewhere in between the 20-yard line and the 20-yard line.
And look, the rules that we have aren't terrible. I actually don't think they're permissive enough in some ways. You could tighten some areas and be looser in others. But John Zollinger called me, who's the chief banking officer of Home Bank, who's a great guy, and he told me, he said, "What are you doing with the transit lodging study? Are you in on this?" And I was like, I really haven't done anything. The meeting times, I'm going out of town over the summer, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you need to do something because we and a few other banks that are local have over $100 million of loan exposure.
They do. Just
on commercial short-term rentals in New Orleans. And if we get screwed and our default rates hit because they're not allowed anymore, we will end lending. We will just stop lending to
let me give you
a lot of types of projects, and we'll go fully to Texas.
Let me go a high-level view of this report. And the reason I say it's awful, and it's not because Desire Line is a bad company. They tried to weave through all of the crap.
They have an important, impossible task, in my opinion.
And they've come up with ideas that are just never going to be accepted by city council. There are stuff that is so bizarre, and that's why you're not hearing a lot about it. Usually in 2019 and 23, when we start going through all these, chambers are packed, and it'll probably be packed, but things are it's such a wordy document, and it isn't very decisive on things. Ultimately, through my conversations with council and council staff, is they weren't even looking at it until budget was done. Budget's done. Now they're going to transition. However, I think you're going to see a highly restrictive commercial short-term rental environment coming up in the future. That being said, if you have a license and you keep it renewed and don't go beyond that 6 months, you will be able to keep your short-term rentals. So the banks, I understand their worry about it. They're not, it's funny because I've always advocated for more short-term rentals. Now my clients are like, hey, we got enough in here right now because they've already been established in it, so their money will go up. The best thing that happened, though, is in August, when the platforms started to do what the legislation says, and it got rid of all the illegal ones. And I'll get up in front of council all the time and I'll say, I'm anti-short-term rental. And they all snap their heads because they're like, Ron, that is so not true. I am against illegal short-term rentals because those who are doing it right, those who've invested in the neighborhood, in their properties, and are good neighbors, they should be the ones who make money, not the illegal ones who don't care about the neighborhoods, don't care about the house, don't care about the guest. If you're going to do something illegal, go. Take out their electric meters. But those who are doing it right should have. So I don't know how Tuesday's going to look as many people are going to come up. I think everyone knows no matter what is done at CPC, council's going to do whatever they want.
Do you think that, real quick, because I asked Patrick to hold this question for a minute. Do you think that the budget crisis gives them a little air cover to be more permissive?
No.
Or changes their mind at all? Because the amount of fees on an STR are really tremendous, especially as compared to a hotel room.
So we have heard
orders
something floated from Mayor-elect Moreno about, I was trying to come up with the right title, of potentially increasing fees on short-term rentals.
They're already high.
They are already high, but generally people, when you're looking for money, you look for the things that people might least appreciate to try and tax those. When it comes down to it, again, they are already very, very high on some of these buildings. And what Ron didn't talk about is that, there's some clients that really kind of want to start putting some caps on here because the market is cannibalizing itself in certain ways. The market has limited various neighborhoods from saying, no, it's really not that lucrative. Both of the NSTR type of folks that have converted bedrooms to short-term rentals and I'm even talking about legal operators, not the just do whatever the hell you want. Where they were going, hey, the juice isn't worth the squeeze right now. There's not enough people traveling to New Orleans. There's not enough people traveling to major tourist destinations anyway because of the macroeconomics. But there is a proliferation. I fundamentally believe there are too many short-term rentals in the city of New Orleans.
I agree.
I think mathematically there are too many. That's my opinion. I think it's backed up with some numbers. But at the same point, and I'm going to give Cindy a plug here. We have zoned out. We have zoned out the areas where you should have them, and where you should be doing more. There's a third rail, which is like you can't have hotels in the French Quarter. Why? Yes. Why? There are buildings that no one in this room.
You mean new hotels in the French Quarter?
New hotels. There are buildings in the French Quarter that in my lifetime have essentially been vacant. They were perfect for saying, hey, we're going to put a lot of stipulations on you. You can't raise your height. You can't change the color. You can't go outside your building footprint. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this. And if you can agree with that, we'll let you start a new hotel in the area where all the tourists want to be,
right?
Which would take pressure away from all of our neighbors.
Bring hundreds of people into this neighborhood.
But because we come up with these lines in the sand, all through zoning, we then push out, the market finds a way, and short-term rentals would not be the thing that they are if we would have a better base zoning. If we had more ability to do real commercial stuff in commercial, the problem I had with the transient lodging study is the words in the questions, if you are not a land use person, you generally don't understand what the questions mean, like most surveys. Do you think that you should, should commercial short-term rentals be allowed in a residential district? Yes or no? Of course, everybody said no. When we talk about where most commercial short-term rentals are, which is where all of them are, they're in mixed use, which are not residential by themselves. So it's a misleading question to ask that. We get people all caught up in these words, which most people don't even understand, and we're not looking at the basics of where are the places where people should be putting them. Downtown, in the report, there was an argument over getting even 10% allowed. Why are we not putting all of our short-term rentals in vacant, empty buildings that have been vacant and empty for 20 years?
Yeah, where the math doesn't work for anything else.
It doesn't work for anything else.
It doesn't work to go to
You're not displacing neighbors. You're essentially taking demand away from actual neighborhoods, which would be perfect.
Let's keep moving because we get stuck on this one for
We'll get stuck on it forever.
And I know we got some questions. Last thing, when is the right time to... We've got to go on tour, man. We've got to sell some houses. Love you, though. When is the right time to bring in a third party like you all? What magic words should we be listening to from a client when we need to say, whoa, like this is getting a little bit beyond where we should be talking, and we should let an expert come in here who does this every single day?
So I'm going to say this, and I've said it here once before, and I've said it at some of your competitors when we've gone and spoken there as well.
You're pissing him off now.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to get thrown out.
He gets pissed off easily. I have thick skin.
What you had kind of said earlier is who to reach out to, Ron or Zach. You reach out to Ron, and it's nothing against Zach. You can copy Zach on an email. You're just going to get a better response because he's doing 25 different other jobs. And one of my jobs is to kind of take in calls. So I'll give you my business card again. But call me. I will always listen to what your question is, and I'll give you a quick answer, or I'll do a little research free of charge. Why am I doing it free of charge? Because we're all in this together to make New Orleans better and a stronger residential community and a stronger business community. When we're running into issues.
Do you want to hear from us, or you want us to just give our clients your info?
And I'm happy to look at anything. But really, the first thing everyone should do is when they're looking at buying a house or selling a house is look on One Stop to see if there's any violations or open permits. Because let me tell you, the city has staffed up on inspectors, and they are just fining everyone to death. So it's good for that part. On a business side, you're looking at it. Let us take a look. We can do a quick zoning review. If the client wants a zoning report, we can do that for X amount. And I like to say we're there from inception, hey, I have an idea, to CO.
I would say real quick, my advice to our people is don't go interpret One Stop yourself. Send them the link. Send them an email when they're in the beginning of due diligence, and encourage them to do their own search of One Stop and talk about how important it is.
Key words you should always be listening for to say, call them. Anything related to a garage or an accessory building, okay? Especially if it involves housing.
Yeah.
Again, we're in a housing deficit, but we made it illegal through zoning to convert things into ADUs. But if it's an existing dependency, or somebody thinks it's an existing dependency, or they want it to be an existing dependency, or anything about that, it needs to be proven. It needs to be factually proven. The history has to be in there. Healthy homes. If anybody is doing anything in the rental market, they need to go eyes wide open that they have to get healthy home certificates when they acquire those properties. And it goes back to the one-stop side that if you have open permits from 75 years ago, you might not be able to get your healthy home certificate, okay? Which, again, a whole other podcast for healthy homes. We'll leave that one aside. That and short-term rentals have so many different things. The other thing is, when you're in a neighborhood like this, actually, where y'all's headquarters is, it's this really neat, mix of residential commercial. These are the types of areas in the city that get blurry with zoning and what becomes a non-conforming use and what becomes a conforming use. I'll tell you, for instance, and I'll leave you on this one, since I know we're over and you got questions, but the old Tito's at Robert and Magazine.
Yeah.
The old Tito's at Robert Magazine, we have a fancy, they do great work. Tito's does fantastic work, by the way, fantastic ceviche. But you should visit them at their new location at Washington, at MLK in St. Charles. Yeah. But you have this new place that wants to come in and do ceviche. They have a North Shore concept, and they're bigger because they have huge food presence in Atlanta, a thriving metropolis. They got under contract here. They didn't do the research because they saw it was Magazine Street. Yeah. And didn't you know that Magazine Street has an overlay against restaurants and alcohol? So they're now under a lease. And they have to go through the conditional use process to become a fucking restaurant on Magazine Street.
And yes. I bet you that if they were wearing an AI recorder, which I've run into a couple of people now doing this, and they happen to be recording everything you said, which is now so easy for someone to be doing, I bet you the realtor said something. I bet you, or not the realtor, but the agent told them something like, "Oh yeah, as long as it's not only been less than 6 months or something like that, you can definitely do all this again." And we just gloss over things so fast because we think we know an answer that we don't. And I would urge you to not get yourself in a jam there.
It's messy.
Most real estate agents don't study land use.
No, it's not our job.
And we don't want you to do that.
It's not our job.
We don't want you to do that. We want you to spend your time on finding new clients, selling homes, and creating businesses.
Well, find sites. Site finding is important.
Or another consulting firm. Let them take a look at it because we're the experts. And the best thing about a realtor is knowing how to pull in the experts when they need the help. Again, this is not a commercial. We are here for you. We consider this a partnership with you and every other realtor in the city.
Perfect. Patrick, thank you for your patience, sir.
Sure. I find it comical that we're trying to find the solution when this must be occurring everywhere in the United States. Exactly. So why is it that we're simply not looking to see where it works and then mirroring that rather than trying to invent something?
Not just with STR, but with everything.
Because we're special.
That's why people are getting population we're losing.
To be fair, and I'll say that he kind of whispered it. It's again, we're stuck in a museum. We like to throw phrases out, and this I think is attributed to Mr. Tennessee Williams. There's 3 great cities in America. I think I added the word "great" there, but and we know how it goes. I think it was attributed in the 30s. When the Erie Canal wasn't really ripping us apart as a port, when St. Louis was still in the top 10 of cities, because the western coast of the country. We have not adapted. And to be fair, we choose not to adapt. We choose to say, oh, you're not from here, you didn't go to high school with me, you didn't do this. Get out of here, your judgment is not there. We intentionally look away from people that are successes from outside because you're not a native-born son. I was in a NPP. I shut the lady up when she did. And I'm just assuming, but I'd bet my month's salary, she wasn't from here, quote unquote. Not that it matters, but she started with the "Where are you from?" Thinking I was, and I said, "Well, I was born in Baptist Hospital in Napoleon." Well, she got really kind of caught off guard with that. But the reality is, we that's somehow a reason why a project is good or not good. It's a reason why an idea is good or not good. Oh, it came from somewhere else. It must not be. We have to be able to mingle. The reason why New Orleans was in the top 5 back in the day is because we were trading ideas and people with everyone. Yeah. And then we said, well, we're the greatest ever. And we put up these little walls, and we bounced everybody out. So to the point, It's demanding from everybody that lives here and does work here to our elected leaders that we want the best idea. And we also, 10 years ago, we still thought we were like Houston or Atlanta or whatever. We need to go rip off Birmingham, Alabama. We need to go rip off Chattanooga, Tennessee, who we still pretend that we're like better and bigger than them. People are surprised when you say, we're like the 60th biggest city in America. People that aren't from here are like, what are you talking about? Because we have the big name, but we're a little tiny town. The little emerging economies from the last 5 to 10 years, those are the economic development leaders that I want to hijack, that I want to bring into the city. Those ideas.
Zach, we've got a problem in that we do appreciate the work the PRC does. We do appreciate some of the work of the HDLC. I don't love when they look at our listing photos to then go cite our clients trying to sell their property, okay? But
the internet's the best inspector.
Yeah, it is. The problem we have is that it's really easy when our friend who's, our former head of the PRC, Danielle Del Sol, comes up, or even Eleanor from HLC comes up and says, we work hard, we are adding value to your properties by creating standards and holding it, and we get to walk through, I drive down St. Charles Avenue every single day at least once. And it is a unique thing. I commonly think, or regularly think, how unique of a drive that is I get to do every day. And I think the challenge is we will never be those things that I don't necessarily want to, but I want to have areas where we can say, this isn't so bad. Like, it is nice every now and then to have like a West Elm to go to. Like, Magazine Street doesn't have to be all local. It could have some, that's been a successful partnership. I think that's a model for things. I think that you can have an area like the River District come up that looks like it could be in Austin or somewhere else that's designed appropriately. I think that there should be rezoning of areas like the Claiborne corridor from basically Broadway to the Superdome because, frankly, it's a state highway. If we're going to go dense, and we want to save and educate children, well, the way you get more property taxes, unless you're going to annex Jefferson Parish, which I don't think they're going to let us do, you got to go up. You just have to create property taxes out of air. And you can literally do it with zoning and land use.
Jeffrey, I was in Old San Juan a month ago. There's a Burger King in the middle of a building that's older than our city. But we can't have a Burger King in our French Quarter because we're a special jewel never to be seen from again. We pretend that we are the most unique place on the planet.
That's a really tough argument, though, to win. I mean, you're picking. I love you, and I don't want to kick you in the crotch with this one, but I don't give a damn about Burger King in the French Quarter, and I think a lot of people feel that way. What we care about, though, is that there's choice, and that if somebody wants to go into, there needs to be areas where we can do economic development in this city besides Veterans Highway. And that's the problem. We've said there's none, and anyone that wants to do anything has to go to vets.
So I think that one of the differences is that we are extremely, our city hall in the last 3 years has been focused on finding people and putting them in adjudication and code enforcement because it's a huge money maker for it. I am at that office at least once or twice a week defending my clients or trying to find middle ground somewhere on that. So our mentality,
you do have bad actors too,
when I have a bad actor, I let them know it's a bad actor because I think being honest and open is right. Now I'm not saying I'm throwing my client under the thing, but look, London Lodge was one of my clients, and they hired me the day before the hearing, and I walked out and I went out there and I was like, I'd never seen anything like that except on movies before. Oh. But when I went in, there were areas that they had done things kind of wrong. Yeah. And I was able to reduce it. Yes, there are bad actors. But our mentality is not how we can help people. It's how can we find people and get them into compliance. And that's, some of the people at code enforcement or adjudication hearings are very understanding, especially when it comes to healthy homes and different things like that. They'll understand, and they usually drop the fine from $1,000 to $100 on it for people that are just your normal citizens, because we shouldn't be taxing our citizens through fines. So I think that's one of the big problems. Why are we not having development? And ask any of our developers that work with us. It's constant hammer.
Tina, you had or Nichelle, go ahead.
Hi. So when you talked about, Jeff, I think one of y'all mentioned about the Magazine Street, the restaurant, and that as a realtor, maybe y'all are someone that we want to refer our clients to. On an average, though, what does that run for the consumer?
Cost. So generally speaking, and Ron had mentioned, we'll generally try to do something quick, in 15 minutes, a quick run through the computer, kind of triage what the question might be, and get you an immediate answer. If we're dealing directly with the realtor, we try and do that without any fee. If it turns into hey, this is going to become an investigation that really needs to happen, we'll give you kind of a projection. But usually you're talking anywhere from about $150 to $500.
We have set fees. And one of the things that other people don't, and what makes it so good, is we have a menu in there. So a regular building permit for a residential person to help them through that process is $550. To do it for a commercial permit, it's $800, unless it's a big hotel or something that's going to take more. Then we have to change it. But generally, on zoning verifications, on established multifamily, on legal nonconforming use, on conditional uses, zoning changes, our fees are set. And so that way, and because as someone coming to us, they need to know what to budget. They can't say, oh, it's going to be $10,000, but we're going to bill you for every minute. And then in 3 months, you're going, oh, we need another $10,000 for you. No. Sometimes we have easy clients, and sometimes they're a pain, and they're difficult. But it evens out. So everyone has to know what they're dealing with, and they can't change that fee in the middle.
The due diligence, though, is usually an hour or two of our time, and usually handled that day or the next day. So when you're like, hey, I need to confirm, is this even possible or not? It usually takes us less time than that.
I've called Ron one time. I can think of one time where he was just like, "Don't do it, don't touch it." Like it's gonna be a lot of Advil for this one. And another time was like, "Hey, let me call you back later this afternoon. Is that too long?" I said, "No, it's fine. I was hoping it was gonna be this week." And he tells me how we can get to a yes.
The last thing we need is somebody going and bankrupting themselves on a project, because they'll never do another project again.
Yeah.
We need more people doing more work. And so if the answer is no, we want to tell you the answer no and not take a dime on it. We want to help you get your project across the finish line. But yeah, if it's a dead end, there's no reason to hold that back. And so that due diligence is usually on the spot or the day of.
All right.
Is there anything excruciatingly positive you can leave us with, or something that you're really excited about that can kind of give us a nugget?
I do appreciate that.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the new regime coming in. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the promises that they've made and gone through. I thought once Helena said, I'm going to hire 100 people to fix the streets as soon as I'm elected. And then the bottom fell out. She is still working toward that goal and figuring out how to reduce contracts so that we're paying less for contracts and paying people to do what they need to. It would save the city enormous. I think there's going to be an enormous focus on economic development and safety and permits, which is really kind of part of that. I think our police chief is great that she's still on. I think she's been a very positive influence. For someone coming in from outside of New Orleans and to be loved and respected that much, that quickly, speaks volumes for her.
So she's
She's got a horse my size. To piggyback on Ron there, no, I have a lot of faith in the administration. I think Helena's one of the smartest elected leaders in the state. And I think she wants to prove, that she put it in her commercial, so I'll call it a dumpster fire, can be put out. I think that she understands and you're seeing it. You saw it with the Post yesterday. I think one of the fundamental problems of this current administration, we're soon to be able to officially call it last administration, is understanding the priorities and what's number 1 and what's number 10. And what's number 300. And that's been one of the fundamental reasons why we've had a disjointed kind of government where middle management, which is a lot of directors, don't really know where they fall in the world. They don't understand, hey, if there's a budget problem between, let's say, Zach and permits and Superintendent Kirkpatrickson, she should win. She should generally win because that's what the people want. People want public safety over permits every day. And when you don't have a very clear hierarchy of who's surrounding and who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3 in your inner circle and what your priorities are, it becomes the backfighting, the stabbing. You got, we can't get straight answers out of how much money is owed until they went and took an outside third party into it. So I'm very optimistic.
We spent more money to find out.
We had to spend more money. But I'm very optimistic that this administration is going to prioritize being transparent about what the priorities are. And look, I think she's got it's way more of a curse than a blessing, but I think she's going to maximize the potential out of it to say there are things that we normally would never say we would do or not do, and now we will. Case in point, it was going to be in one of our newsletters. We took it out because she beat us to it. She killed off the Office of Youth and Families. Okay, you may have never heard of it. And if you went on their website, they basically did the work of the library, quote unquote, they did the work of the library, NORD, and the public school system. 3 taxpayer-funded entities that are doing the work. Like, there's a lot of things that just fluff that need to be taken, and I think she's already taken a bit of a scalpel and a bit of a cleaver to things that really do not need to be there, because fundamentally, and this is a nice prop up for zoning and for zoning administrators or married people to zoning administrators, we need more people doing the actual work for government than doing some of these, like, it sounds good to have an office that does a thing when they're not really doing anything. So I think the administration is coming in with a lot of energy. From what I hear, Mayor-elect is is working 23 and a half hours a day type deal. And again, that's a positive change. That's a very positive change.
Leave it nicely. All right, we've got to roll, but everybody, big hand for Zach and Ron. Thank y'all very much. We appreciate you both being here.
We got a little gift for everyone here. I'm going to pass out.
Oh, that's nice. Your business card? It's got a $100 bill attached to it.
Christmas picture? Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
But